stories we've seen floated here the last couple of days that Trent Baalke actually half at least volunteered to step aside, because he did say at that press conference too, Trent Baalke definitely said, if I get in the way, I'll step aside. Like, he said it, and we were all like, yeah, sure, Trent Baalke's going to step out of the way, right, of the process here for this team. Well, that's what it wound up happening. Do you buy that that's how it actually worked behind the scenes, that Trent Baalke saw two coaches that they wanted say, no, thank you, and he said, you know what, maybe this is a better process if I'm not involved?
I'm not as sure as it was a case of Trent taking the initiative and being like, okay, maybe it's better I'm not around, as much as I think Shad made the move and Trent probably didn't disagree with it. I will say, talking to people in the building, over the last several weeks, that was something Trent had expressed to people, that he wouldn't be opposed to, if he saw he was the reason things were jammed up, that he would just walk away. I mean, Trent's been in the NFL a long time. I think Trent's obviously, nobody wants to not be a general manager anymore. I think in a perfect world, Trent is still, to him, general manager, especially because throughout this process, the word really was out of the building that Trent Baalke was a giant Liam Cohen advocate. I'd say Baalke probably wanted Cohen to be the head coach more than he wanted Ben Johnson, which is kind of ironic how things played out. But I do think Trent, understood that if he had to step away for, I don't know if I'd say the good of the franchise, but just to make things clean, that he was willing to do so. So I do, to an extent, believe that. But I also, to a larger extent, think this was Shad's move as opposed to Trent just saying, Shad, I'm out.
Look, it's over, right? So It doesn't really matter at this point. I mean, other than to inform you how the next go-around might go, but let's hope that's years down the road as far as that goes. But even when they introduced Liam Cohen, and Shad goes, well, he's asked, when did you decide to make the move? And he goes, well, after we completed our 10 interviews, it became, I thought about it, and that was time for a reset. Well, that was like 4 days before you made the move. I mean, clearly he was an impediment, and I don't think you wanted to make that. And because if you make that the focal point of that press conference, he doesn't want to burn it, but he also doesn't want to make it like, oh, here's Liam Cohen, who now, his first act, even though the fan base at the moment will be happy with it, right? Then Liam Cohen is the guy who, in his first go-round with an opportunity to have a head coaching job, is a GM killer right out of the gates. You know what I mean? Like, It puts a lot on him. Just let him go coach the football team, and they say it wasn't just the Baalke thing. It probably was the money as well.
I'd imagine the money also had plenty to do with it. I think the timing of it all, I don't think there's any way they can deny that Baalke had an impact with it. Like, they can say, on the record and in a press conference all they want that it didn't, but the timing of it, there's just no way.
Right.
But obviously it was something Shad didn't want to broach and elaborate very much, which, he kind of does often. Like, after he's finished with something, he's just ready to move on.
That was the decision I made, and that's that, as if that explains every nuance of what's being asked. And again, it doesn't really, it's better to look forward, but 5 years down the road, are we going to be in another position where things are awkward, potentially? And that's a long time to worry about in the future, I guess.
And I do think the situation is still worth talking about, because in a lot of ways, it creates a unique power structure. I think the best comparison to what I think the Jaguars are trying to do now is in San Francisco, where Kyle Shanahan got hired before they hired a general manager. He actually recommended John Lynch.
Yeah, the story is Lynch cold called him.
Yeah.
Said, this may sound crazy, but I want to be the GM.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, they had a relationship. He respected him as a football mind, and that was basically what it took to become the GM of the San Francisco 49ers, is the backing of Kyle Shanahan, to your point.
100%. And I think Cohen himself even said in Rick Stroud's article that, he spoke to him after the press conference. Cohen said, even Sean McVay didn't get to pick his general manager. Only Kyle Shanahan did. So I think that is the direct result of how they moved with Baalke, is now the head coach does have, a little bit of a different power setup to where he's going to be involved in the picking of a general manager. They're obviously going to be in sync, but you don't normally see that. Normally in the NFL, they either come together at the same time or the general manager comes first.
All right, we know how we got here now. Okay, so I wanted to get that all out of the way, and now we can turn our attention to the general manager pursuit. How serious is an in-house candidate like Ethan Waugh? Are they going to definitely go outside? The latest on the coordinator front, And also a lot of questions, I think, about which veteran players will be retained and who could become cap casualties. So today, with John Shipley of SI in studio here with us, we're doing it like we do on a Check the Tape Tuesday. Our question of the day is simply asking you, what are your questions for John Shipley? We've got him for the entirety of the show today. And look, I've read all his mailbags as well, so you can ask that kind of stuff. Maybe he's got some more detail to some of his answers, but also anything Jaguar related is fair game today. If you want to get on board on the Garber Automall phone lines at 641-1010, the same number for the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. You can hop in the YouTube virtual studio chat, or you can hop on social media. Let's see if I can do this, Tony, without peeking. At MD_1010XL, at 1010XL Fat Tony, at _John Shipley, and at IME to the T.
Come on, somebody.
Come on, somebody. We're back like you never left. It is unbelievable. The drill better watch their back, bud, because we got a new setup here on Jaguars today. Just kidding, Dylan Denmark. All right, so let's get into the immediate future of the Jacksonville Jaguars under Liam Cohen and whomever will be populating that front office job of general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today from the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios of 1010XL.
I get it. You're here because you feel like something's missing. You got some longing for something more. We're going to give you that thing.
1010XL, giving you something more.
Rev up your life with luxury at Vaughn Motor Group on San Jose Boulevard. Right now, used car prices are 12% lower than their peak in April of 2022, making this the perfect time to drive home in a dream car. Specializing in luxury used vehicles, offering you elegance at prices that are finally coming back down to earth. See special listings in the newspaper every Saturday or online at vaughnmotorgroup.com for a complete inventory listing. If you can dream it, you can drive it at Vaughn Motor Group.
You don't have to be a football star to get a signing bonus. The team at Republic Services needs your skills, and they're paying up to $5,000 for you to join the roster. You'll be joining a winner. As an essential business, the Republic Services trucks have not stopped rolling with hourly and weekly pay and better benefits and vacation packages than the rest of the league. Driver trainees, $1,000 sign-on bonus. CDL drivers, $3,000. Diesel mechanics, $5,000 bonus. Join the winning team at Republic Services today. Visit republicservices.com.
Equal opportunity employer.
New Year's resolutions. But let's be honest, by February, that gym membership is just a $50 a month guilt trip.
So why not take that cash and finally fix your leaky faucet, unclog that drain, or tune up your AC?
Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning has your back. Start the year fresh. No leaks, no clogs, no excuses.
It's a resolution you'll actually keep.
Call Duck Rooter at 904-862-6769 today. Because when you're stuck, call the Duck. Right now, get $50 off any service of $150 or more.
You're locked into Jaguars Today Thursday with Cannons of Jacksonville.
I'm here with Clayton Bromberg of Underwood Jewelers. Clayton, you have told us about buying better quality diamonds, but is there any way to start with a smaller diamond and use it to trade up to a larger diamond later on?
Frank, it's interesting you'd ask that because our founder, H.F. Underwood, popularized growing your diamond here in Jacksonville about 50 years ago, and it's something we still do today. When a customer buys an Underwood engagement ring or solitaire diamond pendant or a pair of ear studs, we guarantee they get the price they paid for it on the purchase of any larger diamond. Now, a lot of stores would say, big deal. We do that too, but here's the Underwood difference. We guarantee you get what you paid when you trade in your Underwood diamond, even if you're trading up by only $1. It's not that you have to trade up 2 for 1 like most jewelers ask. There have been literally thousands of people in the Jacksonville area who have taken advantage of our policy, and Underwood still grows a lot of diamonds for a lot of people.
Underwood's, serving excellence since 1928. In San Marco, Avondale, and the shops of Ponte Vedra.
To catch more fish, you gotta think like a fish. Captain Kevin and the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show, reeled in by the Pest Pros at Royal Pest Services, and awaken 180 weight loss.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
With the sun setting earlier, Hidden Hills Golf Club has expanded their twilight specials so you can take advantage of our special afternoon rates and get your round in before dark. Book today at hiddenhillsgc.com and enjoy this beautiful fall weather.
Ballou here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Hello, I'm attorney Malcolm Anthony. Being charged with domestic violence can turn your life upside down. If you're in trouble, call me, Malcolm Anthony, at 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW.
Pacifico is brewed for those who let go of the things that don't matter and hold on to the ones that do. That's living life anchors up.
Pacifico, found in Baja, imported by surfers. Ask for a Pacifico when you're ready to live life anchors up.
Pacifico is a crisp golden lager, brewed for those who know. It's what's behind a label that matters.
If someone you love needs a pick-me-up, then it's time to get serious about it and send them a Kuhn floral arrangement. JJ here with 1010XL. You'll be assured of a quality delivery, that's for sure. Log on and order online at kuhnflowers.com.
Kick off the new year with a new look for your home. It's the Renewal by Andersen New Year's sales event. For a limited time, save 20% on their energy-efficient windows and patio doors, designed to keep your home comfortable all year. Plus 0 down, no payments, and 0% interest for 12 months. Offer expires January 31st. Renewal by Andersen, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com to schedule your free consultation.
License number CGC 1527613.
Tailgate special alert. 3 pounds of marinated chicken, 2 pounds of marinated steak tips, 2 pounds of fresh ground beef, and 2 pounds of homemade sausage for only $80 to feed your crew.
For tasty tips and juicy breasts, choose Southern Steer Butcher.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Listening to Jaguars Today with Mike Dempsey, Tony Smith, and E.T. Come on, somebody.
Now, why was E.T.'s name said with more excitement than ours?
I don't even know, man. I just found that drop on the internet.
Little
my boy.
Gritty, is that right? Little Gritty's just got his own account out there, just dropping memes and little quotes out there.
I just found that, man. Oh, this is cool. Let me just use this as a reason.
I mean, of all the things that you would have to line up for that just to be random like that, it's amazing that you're able to find that, E.
You would call that universe, baby.
That's right. It's E.T.'s universe, and we're all living in it. Tonight, it is Coach Liam Cohen's universe. The oddly named Coach Cohen's First Duval, presented by Everbank, taking place down at the stadium today from 6 until 8 o'clock in the West Club. And all you have to do, go to Jaguars.com. You'll see a link right there on the front page. It's free to attend, but you do have to have a ticket. So you can't just show up and go, oh, you got room in there. They might, but they're only going to do it for ticketed folks tonight. It's much like a training camp practice, so it doesn't cost you anything to do that. Just go ahead and sign up. You're going to have 40% off concessions, 25% off Fanatics merchandise as well. So you can go and get a little FaceTime, perhaps, with the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars down at Everbank Stadium in the West Club tonight. Baselli will be there, the Roar, Jacksonville, the D-line. So they're trying to make it into an event to kind of open things up to the public with Liam Cohen. So, Ship, let's start on the coaching front, right? Because that seems to be where the Jaguars are starting right now with their pursuit. Tavita Pritchard is the latest offensive coordinator candidate. Patrick Graham looks like he's going back to the Raiders now. And for a lot of people, he was their preferred candidate because he's been a coordinator. I don't know how many people want, 340-somethings, or 39 to 40-year-olds running and Heath Farwell's got experience here. But, your head coach, maybe first-time offensive and defensive coordinators, at least of the group that they've talked to so far, that's what it would end up being now that Graham looks like he's going back to Vegas. First off, on the timetable on this, how long do you expect it to be before we get some concrete news on either one of those coordinator slots?
Oh man, you got to think about a weekend, right? Because all these other staffs are filling up so quickly. I mean, you see Chicago, who made their hire, officially 3 days before the Jaguars. They now have their offense coordinator, defense coordinator, special teams coordinator, beloved pass game coordinator now there.
Press Taylor.
Yeah. So they have their staff.
They beat us to him. Yeah. Man.
It will be fascinating to watch how the Jaguars and Bears compare over the next few years, because both sides are just going at each other's throats on social media.
Well, there's no question about it. And, it's no surprise, Tony, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers blocked an interview. It's a lateral move. Yeah. Even obviously the Bucs are going to go out of their way now to block anything that the Jaguars want to have happen. But it's not an uncommon thing in the NFL anyway to block a lateral move if you want to keep that guy on your staff.
I mean, the Jaguars blocked Press Taylor from interviewing with Baltimore for their offense coordinator position after 2022
Think how different life could have been.
Yeah. I will say, I find a lot of humor in the fact that they are having the, what's the word for it? The gravitas to even suggest trying to interview Tampa Bay Buccaneers assistants. Like you know the
cojones, right? He just threw him out on the table and he's like, "Hey, by the way, Todd Bowles, you doing anything?" Defensive coordinators open up here in Jacksonville.
It's at a point where when we do mock draft Wednesday.
Yeah.
So when I was doing the mock draft and I wound up trading one of the picks and one of the offers I got was from Tampa. And when I saw it was from Tampa, I chuckled. I was
seventh rounder.
But it was like in the third round. It was at the top of the third round.
Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm saying if they really AI'd it properly, they'd be offering a seventh rounder for your
something
first.
Like that. But it was funny. I was like, oh yeah, Tampa. Yeah, they're going to be in business with Jacksonville in the draft. I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Which to me, there are a couple of guys in Tampa who it really would make sense in a perfect world for Liam Cohen to bring over. Josh Grizzard, their passing game coordinator. Skip Pete, I believe he's their running backs coach. Has McVay ties. Kevin Carberry, the offensive line coach, has McVay ties. But the only way, really, it seems like that you can get any of these guys is to make them offensive coordinator.
Right. What about the old assistant head coach title, or a more? Is it only if you're going to the coordinator level that you can't block those guys from?
I believe so, because I know some people ask the question. Could they make Kevin Carberry the run game coordinator, and would that fly? And I don't think so. I think the Buccaneers can block that. I think you straight up have to make them an offensive coordinator. Now, maybe whoever the Buccaneers hire as offensive coordinator, maybe he wants his own guys, because it's clear Cohen had an impact on some of these guys even being in Tampa to begin with. But it also seems like Tampa Bay, or for their coordinator position, they're interviewing everybody who's ever met Sean McVay, down to his neighbor and his mailman. So one would assume that whichever coordinator they hire would probably want to keep some McVay guys around there.
Any thoughts on Nate Scheelhaase or Tavita Pritchard, who are the two known offensive coordinator candidates that they've spoken with?
Yeah, so I didn't know much about Tavita Pritchard before last night. Obviously, when I saw that he got interviewed, I sent out some text trying to get some more information on him. He has a really good reputation. People think that he's a really bright, forward-thinking guy, that he just has an innate understanding of the quarterback position. He was one of the few guys that Dan Quinn kept on staff when he kind of turned over the entire Washington Commanders staff, which I think said a lot. You talk to people who are around him with Stanford, and you hear a lot of positive things. Coached Walker Little at Stanford, coached with Kevin Carberry at Stanford. So that to me is probably the connection there. Cohen and Carberry are, fairly close. I'd imagine Cohen can learn a lot about Pritchard from just talking to Carberry. It definitely seems like, if you're trying to find a young ascending guy who maybe doesn't necessarily place an emphasis on having to be the play caller right now, he would make sense. And, Shieldhouse, he's somebody who he's been getting interviews. I believe he interviewed with Tampa for their offensive coordinator position. I know people are wary of the rising star, label for coaches, but he definitely seems like he's somebody who's a rising star. He helped, obviously Iowa State's offense take massive leaps when he was their offensive coordinator, to the point where Sean McVay poached him and brought him to the NFL for his first NFL job. And I think the Jaguar staff, much like Tampa's offensive coordinator, it's going to be, if you've come across with Sean McVay and the Rams at some point in time, that will probably do you some good at getting at least an interview with the Jaguars right now.
Do you have a favorite, like a guy that you would prefer from the Jaguar perspective, or another candidate who hasn't been mentioned that you'd like to see him include?
So those are two interviews. I do think that there would be the possibility of Kevin Carberry as offensive coordinator. It just seems like Cohen wants him on the staff so badly, and that's a step that he would have to take that I really think they would consider it. It'd probably be surprising because he's not, a play caller. He doesn't work with quarterbacks or anything like that, but I do think there's a possibility. And, CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones put out, over the weekend that Chip Kelly was of some interest for the Jaguars. We haven't seen him get interviewed yet, but he has a pretty tight connection, with Cohen, because they both work with, Mark Whipple, mentor to Kelly, mentor to Cohen, gave Cohen one of his first real coordinator jobs. I think both those guys would make sense to consider. I think that if you're going for somebody who maybe, with Cohen calling the plays, somebody who won't necessarily want to be a play caller right away, I think Shieldhouse really is an interesting guy because he seems like somebody who's, just one of those up-and-coming coaches who seems like he's on the precipice of really exploding.
I wonder about with Chip Kelly, are you going to take an NFL coordinator job where you're not the play caller?
I think if there's enough zeros on that contract, I think he would.
I would take it, right?
Yeah, I really think money, when it comes to Chip Kelly, would be a significant factor. I think potentially even more than calling plays. Now, there are other teams that are supposedly interested in him. It seems like the Houston Texans are interviewing everybody who's ever worked for Chip Kelly. They haven't officially interviewed him yet, but I'd be surprised if they're not interested in him. So that could be another aspect of it. If you don't go after Chip Kelly, maybe you're letting the Houston Texans get him.
Right, and you would think, unless Shaw just blows him away with an offer, the money's not going to be that vastly different, and he'd have a chance to work with, on a team. No matter how we feel about this roster, the reality is Houston's won the division 2 years in a row. Yeah. Even with Stroud taking a step back this year, he's had a pretty good start to his career, and you'd be the play caller there with a defensive-minded head coach. So I could see why that would be more attractive and check more boxes for Chip Kelly. On the defensive coordinator front, do you have a favorite among the candidates that they've spoken to yet, or is there somebody outside that you'd like to see them add to the list?
I think my official guess, like the person whose resume impresses me the most is probably Aubrey Pleasant. Now, his entire situation where he got fired like 7 games into being the passing game coordinator for the Detroit Lions, that's certainly something you have to look at because the Lions were really bad defensively that year. Of course, like the talent wasn't there. The talent wasn't what Aaron Glenn just worked with. But I mean, how often do you see teams say the only way for us to get better is to fire the coach leading the unit 6 games into a season? And they did similar with Anthony Lynn and then took off with Ben Johnson. So that does give me some pause. My official guess, though, to be higher is actually, I think, and I'm not like I'm guaranteeing 100% they're all in. But if I had to pick a name out of the candidates that they've spoken to who I think will get the job, I think Anthony Campanelle. Honestly, it seems like there's legitimate buzz and momentum for him. He's another guy like Pritchard who I didn't know a lot about before they interviewed, and then starting to talk to people in league circles, etc. People who know him. He's somebody who he has the Vic Fangio stamp of approval. Long time under Fangio. He's also worked with Brian Flores. There's at least the idea that if you want somebody who can come in and bring a defense that can be multiple, that can adjust, with basically the opposite of what we saw from the Jaguars last year, that he'd be the guy. And he's really well respected in Green Bay. Green Bay does not want to lose him. I know that for a fact. So he's my guess, but I think Pleasant's a good candidate. I think Durante Jones is another good candidate. He's another guy who's worked under Brian Flores. The Vikings defensive backs have really overachieved the last couple years. So I think they're looking in the right places. I think, they're talking to the right people. Patrick Graham, I do think he was one of the favorites for the job. I'm not going as far as to say I think he was the favorite or that now they're scrambling. I don't necessarily think that. I think this was probably Patrick Graham not necessarily turning the Jaguars down, but, maybe wanting to wrap things up, a little quicker than the Jaguars are moving, et cetera. Plus, Las Vegas, it's a good spot to still be in for him. Doesn't have to change, can keep his staff together. I'm not totally shocked that he's going back to Vegas, because it really seemed like it was either going to Vegas and staying there or coming to Jacksonville. So I think he was a good candidate, but I don't think it's a scenario where people should say the Jaguars whiffed or the Jaguars, should be hitting the panic button or anything like that.
All right, more on the coaching front when we return in the moment, and we'll start to look at what this roster may look like for the Jags in 2025. John Shipley of SI in studio here with us. If you want to get on board, 641-1010 is the easiest way to do that on the Garber Auto Mall phone lines or on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. You're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today for the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios.
Hey, John, looking for the perfect family ride?
How about taking your family on a luxury ride with the all-new 2024 Cadillac Escalade?
That sounds amazing. If you're a loyal customer, you get $4,000 off. Or if you're new to Randy Marion, you can get a $3,000 Conquest discount.
And don't forget the 5% savings on retired courtesy transportation vehicles.
You can save over $10,000 on select 2024 Escalade.
Experience the luxury and comfort at Randy Marion Cadillac.
Randy Marion Cadillac, Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville.
Plus tax tag title $8.99 admin fee and resist all on approved credit.
The Electric Light Orchestra Experience featuring Evil Woman, the American ELO. A concert celebration featuring the music of Electric Light Orchestra. It's February 5th at Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
Jaguars Today Thursday is hitched to Cannons of Jacksonville for all your towing needs.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, pal, what's the matter?
I don't know about this air conditioner, Jason.
My job is actually to...
1 minute it's working, and the next minute it's not working. Every time I leave the house, I don't know if I'm coming back to a nice, cool oasis or a steaming cesspool of sweaty garbage fumes and dog farts, and then I'll never get to sleep. And I'll be too late to call someone. And what if I've got a big meeting the next morning and I haven't slept a wink?
Okay, dude. Stay cool. Or at least stay cooler.
But
Bueller Air and Plumbing can figure out why your AC only works sometimes and not all the time. We fix that kind of stuff every day.
You mean you can...
Life moves pretty fast. If you spend all your time worrying about an air conditioner that can totally be fixed, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Hey, are you ready to welcome our new head coach, Liam Cohen, to the bank? Join us this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Gallagher Club West and be among the first to hear directly from Coach Cohen. Enjoy a live panel with Coach Cohen, appearances from Jaguars legend Tony Vaselli, The Roar, Jackson DeVille, and the D-Line. Tickets are free, but space is limited. Secure your tickets by going to jaguars.com/Coach Cohen today.
We could call them helmets and cleats, but they don't wear cleats.
Those shoes are hot.
Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
From the First Coast Lighting Studios at 1010XL.
Weekdays noon to 2.
You think you could join us?
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Multi-unit hair grafting is now available at IHRS and can give you 3 times more hair in one procedure over a traditional hair transplant.
Multi-unit hair grafting gave me more hair in one procedure and within my budget.
You can grow your hair back with this exclusive new procedure. Call for a free evaluation. Call IHRS 904-777-IHRS 777-IHRS 777-4477.
What could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey, Prosser here. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisals. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. Use it. One client got $150,000 out and paid off all their credit cards, 2 car loans, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day, so act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com or 904-999-1508. Get the money you need for anything at 904-999-1508 or just go to LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
If you suffer from constant burning, tingling, or numbness in your hands or feet, it could be a serious condition called neuropathy. I'm Dr. Nathan Riddle, DC with Riddle Wellness in Ponte Vedra. Neuropathy is treatable, and we have seen great results by using state-of-the-art, non-invasive therapies to target damaged nerves, reduce symptoms, and improve nerve function. Call 904-395-5598 to schedule your free consultation today and learn how you can live pain-free. Call 904-395-5598.
Ammon, you're always talking about how clean air is healthy air. I've had this cold for weeks. Can cleaning my air ducts actually help?
Well, Dad, I'm not a doctor, and let's be honest, you probably caught that cold from one of your grandkids. But I can tell you this, the cleaner your air, the better you'll feel.
Makes sense, but what do air ducts have to do with it?
Your ducts are like the lungs of your home. If they're full of dust, allergens, and who knows what else, all that junk gets blown into the air you breathe, especially now that the heat's running. And the EPA says improving indoor air quality can reduce health risk.
So you're telling me my vents are working harder than my immune system?
Exactly. That's why Zero Res is here. We're NADCA certified, and our truck mount system is the most powerful in the industry. Right now, we're even offering $100 off your total for January.
All right, sign me up. If it makes me feel better and keeps your mom off my back, I'm all in.
Good call, Dad.
Zero Res.
Spelled border backwards.
It's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
Transform your bathroom with stunning shower glass from Sky Glass Solutions in Jacksonville Beach. For a free quote, call 904-608-5151 or visit skyglasssolutions.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Everything you need to know about the Jaguars today on 1010XL.
I got some questions rolling in here for John Shipley. You can hit us up on social media, on the text line, in the YouTube virtual studio chat, on the phone lines, whatever you like here. You like this?
I do.
This is your music.
E.T. gets me.
I know he does. You guys are young. I don't get anybody.
This that boss man D-Lo, my boy.
Oh, like I don't know that.
Of course.
I just don't get you.
I pulled this right out of your iPod.
Right. Sure you did. My iPod. Right. my
MP3 player.
My cassette player. My Walkman. I'll lend you my Walkman. All right, Ship, before I get to some of these questions for you, one more just on the overall makeup of the structure of the staff in terms of experience. Again, the oldest coordinator candidate they talked to is 46 years old.
Yeah.
All right. So the head coach is 39. Right. It's going to be a very young staff, it appears. Is that too much hubris? Do you need that veteran guy like we talked about yesterday, Wade Phillips, going to Los Angeles with Sean McVay and basically being handed the defense for 3 years? Do you need something like that to take some pressure off a guy who's been around the block for Liam Cohen to lean on?
Yeah, I think you do need some experience somewhere. I don't know if it necessarily has to be defensive coordinator, offense coordinator. I think it can just be somewhere on the staff. That's why I thought, when Cohen got hired that, obviously he's a quarterback guy, will want his own guy working with Trevor every single day. But that's why I thought Mike McCoy might be a guy potentially keep around. He's been a head coach before, has a lot of experience in the league, obviously has a great rapport with Trevor. Doesn't sound like Mike McCoy is going to be sticking around, but somebody like that, I think, at a coaching position group, maybe, isn't the highest ranking coach on the staff, but somebody with experience who can at least have, serve as some kind of sounding board for Cohen.
We know Heath Farwell's back to run the special teams, which seems like a no-brainer kind of move.
Major.
Anybody else that you're hearing that could be retained on either side of the ball?
In terms of could be retained, I think that, obviously some guys they're clearly moving on from. Press Taylor took the job in Chicago. I've been told Ryan Nielsen won't be back. Phil Rauscher won't be back. I believe Matt House, I'm not sure if it's out there yet, but sounds like he's going to be somewhere else next season. I'm not sure outside of Farwell and maybe, the assistant special teams coach Luke Thompson, if Farwell vouches for him, how many guys, honestly, will be back? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of momentum right now for a lot of guys like that to happen.
All right, on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, Ship, would you say the right general manager or the right defensive coordinator is more vital for instant success, or at least over the next 3 years, they put it?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
That's a tough one. I think defensive coordinator is obviously extremely vital because we saw what happened last year when you have somebody who maybe just isn't equipped for the job. And I thought Ryan Nielsen was a home run hire at the time. I thought Ryan Nielsen was going to be absolutely fantastic. Definitely seems like they did as well. But, just hearing about how things transpired on the defensive side of the ball last year, the rotations, Eric Armstead playing defensive end despite clearly being a 3-technique defensive tackle, it's clear what the wrong defensive coordinator can kind of do to a unit. So I think that's definitely vital, especially considering the role that Cohen's going to have on offense. He told a few writers after his press conference that he's going to be involved on the defensive side, but he wants that defense coach to have autonomy on that side of the ball. So, he obviously won't be ignoring the defensive side of the ball, but he's going to be focusing much more on offense. So I do think that's critical, especially I'd say for short-term success, defensive coordinator is more important. Long-term success, I'd probably say general manager.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was looking at it, Tone. This year, I think defensive coordinator has a bigger impact because I do think there are some pieces to work with. Yeah, you got to add some guys, and those guys will be added by the new general manager in conjunction with Liam Cohen. But I think, again, for this year, probably the coordinator position on defense has the bigger impact. Beyond that, you got to go GM.
Well, I think it goes to, something you mentioned right before we went to break there. It's the energy in the building has been off.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years. And I think the Jags are in a weird kind of spot, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Andrew Winger can't be the energy guy in your locker room. And right now it feels like he is kind of the energy guy in the locker room. I think Josh Hines-Allen amplifies the attitude of everyone around him, right? He doesn't get in the way of any of that progressing and going forward. I think Walker is in large part the same kind of thing, but they don't have anybody that sparks anything in that locker room right now, and I don't think that's all that easy to find and recognize. You need them to not be an Andrew Wingard level player. They need to be a really good player to lead the locker room in that kind of direction. They got to find that somewhere this offseason.
You know who one of the last sparks that they had was on defense? There you go.
Yeah.
The culture set. And I do think a lot of that is when things are going well, it's a lot easier. I think the last year and a half wore on the Jaguars locker room. I think the losses, will Doug get fired? Will Doug not get fired? I definitely think it wore down on them energy-wise. I mean, just being in the building last season and a half, I will say, like you mentioned, the energy has been flat. It has very much felt like a, very tense kind of low energy, low confidence kind of franchise, which I don't know if you want to pin that on players. I don't know if you want to pin that on coaching staff or just the way how the seasons went, but they needed a, shot in the arm, some life, some energy out of this coaching process. And I think at the very least, that's what they'll get. One guy who I do think could kind of be that spark moving forward, Jarian Jones. He's really respected in the locker room for how he played as a rookie and just energy and confidence and tenacity wise. Like you want 11 Jarian Joneses on defense.
Do you see him as the nickel or a potential outside corner?
I think probably nickel, and I'll go as far to say I think he can be one of the better nickels in the AFC, NFL in general as he continues to progress. I think if guys like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell didn't have their stellar seasons, you see a lot more hype nationally for Jarian Jones because just looking at the numbers, looking at the tape, he had a fantastic rookie year.
All right, let's talk a little personnel then. Multiple people have asked questions this morning about Etienne and Bigsby and what you think the approach will be with the backfield. They went out and got Bucky Irving last year. They didn't spend high draft capital on him, but he came in and by the second half of the season had taken over that backfield from Rashad White. Liam Cohen wants to run the ball. Trevor talked about how important it is to have a competent running game. So what do you think they do in terms of pouring resources into that position?
It wouldn't surprise me to see them spend, like, say, an early day 3 pick potentially on a running back. Just get somebody who Cohen and his staff, like, they've identified his skill set. They want to make the investment in him since all the other running backs are kind of incumbents. I know they took Keelan Robinson last year, and Heath Farwell is a giant Keelan Robinson fan. It's just we didn't see much from Keelan Robinson last year. He was either injured or when he was healthy, didn't really play much. So I could see them adding another back to the mix. But I think going into the year, I think Travis Etienne probably makes the most sense as the guy who's going to lead the pack just because he has the most first, second, and third down ability. I think Tank Bigsby, especially as a downhill runner on gap runs who can be decisive, I think in the right running scheme, he can be explosive and dangerous. It's just I think his kind of issues in the passing game lend to Etienne still having a pretty big role with this team because I think you can use Etienne a lot of ways that they used Bucky Irving, in the screen game, the kind of different ways they manufactured touches to him. And I think Etienne, probably after Trevor Lawrence, is probably the biggest benefactor from Cohen coming in because it was clear that the running scheme the last couple of years in Etienne just were not a fit. There was a clear, square peg and a round hole there. And I think Cohen can get more out of Etienne than the last staff.
It's weird because 2 years ago, we've talked about this on the show several times. Etienne was one of the best in the league at forcing missed tackles.
Yeah.
Where'd that go? In 24, like it's hard to explain that he was that good. Like that skill was there for Etienne, that he only had the kind of season he had in 23 because he had to do it all on his own. He was getting no help from anywhere else. Well, he was getting more help in 2024, and all of those things kind of disappeared within his game. That's hard to explain.
No, it is. And if I had to point to one thing, I'd probably say injuries. It didn't seem like for much of the season that he was 100%, that he was right, even in some of the games that he played in. To me, there were several plays where I'm like, wow, I see Etienne, break that tackle a year ago. It just seemed like for whatever, reasons, he wasn't 100% last year. I think the offseason would probably do him some good, and I could see him getting back to being a 1,000-yard type guy next year just because of Cohen's understanding of the run game and how to marry it to the pass and how to set things up for everybody.
I got to get the offensive line rolling as well. And I'm referencing some of your recent mailbags. I think, like a lot of people, think right guard's the only position you're really going to see a change here. Are you 100% convinced Brandon Sheriff will be off this roster?
Maybe not 100. I'd say I'd probably put it, though, at like 80, 85. Like I don't expect Brandon Sheriff to be the right guard next year. Now, probably the 15% that I'm not going all in is because I didn't expect Brandon Sheriff to be the right guard last season.
Sure.
So I think there's always a chance, but I would expect, just where his contract's at, even where he's at in his career, I think that, maybe there's even a possibility that he, retires altogether. But if he does hit the free agent market, he'd probably get a decent 1 or 2 year deal.
I mean, you look at his free agent list, he's like top 3, top 5 at worst among guards, right?
Yeah.
Which just goes to show you one team's trash is always somebody else's treasure. That's just the way it works. Mitch Morse is back for one more year under his contract. So where does center rank in terms of projecting forward? Like, would you like to see them land their center of the future in this year's draft?
What do you mean they have their center of the future?
Oh, come on now. I know they've got those Kentucky ties, but I don't know if Luke Fortner's going to be that guy.
So when Fortner was a rookie at their rookie minicamp, I tweeted out a picture of him and mentioned what he said about Liam Cohen back then and how it helped him playing in a pro-style offense. It got retweeted when all this Cohen stuff was going on, and somebody not seeing the timestamp commented and it was like, why are we asking Luke Fortner about the head coach search? And I was like, no, I think the center position, they definitely need to consider adding to. I'm not sure if they'll see it as they absolutely must, because I'd imagine they'll have at least enough confidence in Fortner to make him the backup center. But it would make sense to invest in a young guy, kind of have him waiting in the wings behind Mitch Morse. I'm just not sure how high on the priority list they're going to place that.
how long can Fortner be on the roster if all he is the backup center? Right? Like, it just feels like you're burning a slot every day.
Yeah.
You know, like every game day where you had him active because you need a backup center, you know, what are we doing? Like, you're just burning a roster spot when you could find somebody in the league that can play center and something else, which is typically what the second center is if they're going to be active on game day.
Oh, 100%. I think a lot of that last year was a coaching staff and front office that had spent a third-round pick on the guy. You know, they obviously look worse if they just clean, cut ties, etc. If it wasn't somebody who has coached Fortner before and coached him in probably one of his better seasons as a player, I'd say, you know, he probably isn't long for the roster, but I think he at least has a chance.
There's almost no dead cap hit if you move on. You save $3 million if you move on from Luke Fortner, you know, and if, like Tony said, if he's a backup center and that's all he is, can you find an upgrade and a guy who's a little bit more versatile? All right, let's take a break here because when we come back, we got some big fish to talk about here, and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and their futures with the Jacksonville Jaguars with John Shipley from SI. If you want to get in, 641-1010 on the Garber Automall phone lines. We'll continue to roll through some of your questions coming in on social media and the text line as well. You're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Hey, folks, Mike Dempsey here for Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Just past that 10-year mark Awaken 180 did. Their founder, Paige, a decade ago, developed a long-term solution for weight loss that could work for anyone, cutting through the misconceptions of lose-weight quick gadgets, fad diets, and medications, and in the process, completely revolutionizing the weight loss industry with real results, most importantly, lasting results. That's right. Free support for life was and still is the backbone of the Awaken 180 program. And after 10 years, 23,000 clients have lost a combined 750,000 pounds, and along the way made themselves a lot healthier, eliminating the need for a variety of medications, in many cases, including type 2 diabetes, cholesterol medications, blood pressure. You're going to look better. People are going to compliment you. You're going to feel better. And you're going to know that this time, unlike other past failed weight loss journeys, you'll be able to keep this weight off with that free coaching and support for life. 98% plus satisfaction rating from those 23,000 customers. By the way, you can schedule a free consultation online at awaken180weightloss.com. That's Awaken180.
Jaguars Today.
For the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios. At 1010XL. 1010XL is your home for NBA play-by-play.
Paolo Banchero and the Orlando Magic head to Portland for a duel against Shaedon Sharpe and the Blazers. Tonight at 9:30 on 1010 a.m.
Is your dog Team Rough or Team Fluff? It's officially Puppy Bowl season at Dogtopia Jacksonville Beach Boulevard. They're getting MVPs, most valuable pups, ready for the big game. Your dog deserves a tail-wagging day of fun, and Dogtopia's indoor playrooms are the perfect training ground for their game day moment. Get your dog in on all the action by visiting Dogtopia Jacksonville Beach Boulevard and St. John's Bluff. New to the pack? Enjoy a free day of daycare. Mention Puppy Bowl when booking to claim the offer. Discover the difference that local expertise makes at First Coast Lighting and Fans. Visit their showroom at the Avenues and browse high-quality products to match your desire for elegance, quality, and uniqueness at First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Jaguars Today Thursday is towed by Cannons of Jacksonville.
Hey, Hicken here for my friends at Prize Picks, gang. The big game is almost here. It's now or never. Time to do some homework. And don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks also giving away a free pick for the big game for one of the starting quarterbacks who only need to throw 1 yard to win. Bang, you're a winner. Sign up today. You get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's right. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. You decide, pick an athlete, say more or less, and watch the money roll in. 10 million members can't be wrong. Billions of dollars awarded in winnings. Prize Picks, man. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Gun charges, drug charges. I'm attorney Malcolm Anthony, and I specialize in handling these types of felony cases. Stay out of trouble. But if you don't, call me at 285-4LAW. That's 4LAW.
WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Aunt Linda clogged the guest bathroom. Your nephew thought the AC was a snow machine. And let's not even talk about the kitchen sink after that turkey grease incident. Ooh.
Congratulations, your family finally left, but the mess stayed behind.
Don't worry. Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning can fix it all. From backed up pipes to overworked AC units, we've got you covered.
Start the new year fresh, because your house deserves it.
Call Duck Rooter today at 904-862-6769. When you're stuck, call the Duck. Right now, get $50 off any service of $150 or more.
Mike Dempsey here. Look, it's been 10 years that I've been vouching for my guys at Dandy Boots, and for a decade, I'm proud of my association with a local family business. They make a great product. I've made no secret that I was a customer long before Dandy ever came on board on 1010XL. But I'm thinking I'm due a little Dandy swag, maybe a little love. How about a Dandy t-shirt, a ball cap? So how about it, Thompson family? What do you got going on over there? In the meantime, I'm going to keep eating those delicious tuna salad sandwiches. So guys, keep helping me out and grab a Dandy sandwich today.
Start your week with a Hall of Fame breakfast.
Well, I'm hungry. How about you?
Join Dan Hicken, Jeff Prosser, and Jags Hall of Famer Tony Bazzelli for tons of football talk. Brought to you by Heritage Roofing of North Florida. Monday mornings at 7:20 on 1010XL.
Hey gang, Prosser here, and I've been telling you for years about Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. Lifetime Enclosures right now running an awesome special for January. Get a complete enclosure done, get free flooring. Now, that can save you some money. If you just need flooring, Lifetime Flooring, also running a buy one room, get the second room free. Once again, only for January. Now offering flooring coating as well. So give them a call. I know I did. Visit their showrooms just off Phillips Highway. Proud partners of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mia here. Since 1982, Closets by Design has specialized in creating dream spaces for every budget. My designer, Frances, made the process so easy. She came to my house and designed a walk-in closet that's not only beautiful, but incredibly functional for me and Bo Valentine. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation at 800-293-3744 or visit closetsbydesign.com and take advantage of their 40% off New Year savings this month only, including 18-month special financing. Closets by Design.
This is Hayes Carline here to help you break free from the chains of pest infestation. The talk of this town is Kingfish Pest Control. By now, many of your neighbors have already joined the Kingfish Revolution, leaving their homes and lawns protected and pest-free. Now it's your turn. Call Kingfish Pest Control and say goodbye to termites, ants, mosquitoes, and other annoying pests. Trust me, you'll get exceptional service and understand why your neighbors and I use Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jaguars.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. The Orlando Magic head out west for a 5-game road trip starting with the Portland Trailblazers tonight. Magic's head coach Jamal Mosley spoke at practice yesterday on what he wants to see from the team as they go out west.
I really think it's, starting on the defensive end. When you go out west, teams tend to play a little bit faster. There's more pace to the game, so us understanding that right away. So it's going to put, a challenge to our transition defense, how we take care of the basketball, but just establishing the tone defensively, getting back in transition, but also being able to just be more physical on our offensive end and execute down the stretch.
Magic and Trailblazers tonight at 10. You can hear the game live on 1010 a.m. The Jacksonville Jaguars are inviting you to hear from new head coach Liam Cohen at a free fan event tonight starting at 6 down in the bank. To secure your free ticket in advance, visit jaguars.com/Coach Cohen. It's 66 degrees at 10:56. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Jaguars today
on 1010XL.
All right, again, tonight, Liam Cohen's first Duval? What?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Going back in time, and he will give that tonight over at the stadium. Just head to Jaguars.com if you want to have a chance to meet the head coach, hear from him tonight. You can go over to Everbank at 6 o'clock, but you have to go to Jaguars.com first and register. Tickets are free, but you have to have one if you're going to get in. Reduced concessions, some deals on merchandise. Tony Baselli will be there. Jackson DeVille, the Roar, the D-line, just turn it into a little bit of a pep rally for Liam Cohen with a chance to rub elbows with some of the fan base. So that is out there for you today. All right, Ship. I don't know which one you want. Let's start with Christian Kirk.
Let's do it.
Okay. Here's one. Kirk having a large cap hit this season. Parker Washington on the rise, along with the potential availability of players like Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp. Do you think the Jags move on from Kirk, or as Spider Jag put it, or is Trevor's friendship enough to save him? I don't think they're going to hold Trevor on. I mean, look, it does matter to some degree, who Trevor's comfortable throwing to. And I get, Aaron Rodgers has Alan Lazard on scholarship, and all that's fine, and he got Randall Cobb to go to the Jets, and he got a whole bunch of different things that he wanted.
Trevor liked Laquan Treadwell, too.
Right. He's not, he liked him because he didn't have many better options at the time, I think. But regardless, all right, Christian Kirk, they can save money if they move off of him. He's not ancient. He was going to get traded during the season last year, but that was the old GM. So do they try to save $10+ million in cap space, or is Kirk back on a reworked deal? How do you see it playing out with him?
Yeah, I think you mentioning the old GM is a big part of this. I think if Trent Baalke was still general manager, I wouldn't expect Christian Kirk to be back. Because like you said, attempted to trade him around the trade deadline. If he doesn't get hurt against, the Packers, I think, it's probably. By
the way, why, if you were going to trade, how far apart were they on this deal that was going to happen that you let him go out there and play? If they were really that close to finishing the deal, wouldn't they have traded him before that game ever took place?
Doesn't seem like a lot of foresight, does it?
It really doesn't. No. But anyway, so continue, please.
No. So I think definitely if Baalke had remained, I think Kirk would have been probably somebody you try to move on from. You save, I think it's around $13 million, or either you save $10 million and get 13 in dead cap, or it's the other way around. It's one of the two. So you obviously save a decent chunk.
You save 10, you'd have 13 and a half in dead cap.
That's what it is, because he has about almost a $24 million cap hit. I
Correct.
believe. So it's a big contract. It's definitely has kind of aged and ballooned the way a lot of people thought it would. When you sign it, got to a big deal. By the time he hits the fourth year of it, it's always going to be, fairly costly. I think it makes sense to see him come back on a reworked deal, maybe not on this original one, but maybe come to the table with a new general manager and find out a cheaper way for him to remain. Because I think if you are Liam Cohen, obviously Parker Washington did a lot of good things last year. Just because you bring Christian Kirk back for at least 2025 doesn't mean anything in terms of giving up on Parker Washington or anything. Still be a key piece of your depth chart, a guy to look at moving forward. But I think Cohen can get a lot of use out of Kirk, especially with how much 11 personnel he plays. The slot receiver will be on the field quite a bit. The Jaguars had shifted a little bit away from that the last two seasons. Kirk was seeing his playing time kind of decrease some. I think just in terms of schematic and on-field fit with Cohen, I think it makes a lot of sense. He's somebody who, it's clear the Jaguars are wanting to hit the ground running next year. They don't want to see this as, win 6 games next year and see that as an improvement, because it won't be. They expect to be better and competitive next year. So I think bringing Kirk back in that vein makes a lot of sense. But I do think you have to figure it out money-wise, because I'm not sure bringing him back at his current deal would be very advantageous.
I think it makes sense that you have to have something to replace Christian Kirk. And I don't think Parker Washington is a direct replacement necessarily for everything that Christian Kirk can give you. So the Jaguars would have to do something in this offseason to offset that. I don't think they're unwilling to move on from Christian Kirk, but at this point it would be they'd have to add another wide receiver, whether it be in free agency or the draft, is at least how it feels like it has to play out to me. Unless they signed a wide receiver in free agency or drafted one somewhere in the first couple of rounds, maybe in this draft, I don't think Kirk is going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And there are guys who have ties to Cohen who would make sense. Like if you wanted to potentially try to swing a trade for Cooper Kupp, Cohen was his position coach at one time. Chris Godwin obviously had a ton of success with him last year, though I'd imagine Tampa Bay is going to try to re-sign him, or at the very least will try to put up some kind of obstacle to him joining the Jaguars franchise. So there are options out there, but I agree with you. I think the most logical path is to Kirk coming back in some form, because if you get rid of him, you have to make another addition at wide receiver, because I'm a Parker Washington fan, but right now it's clearly the Brian Thomas show, and he needs some reinforcements. And I'm not sure really what you can expect out of Gabe Davis next season yet. I think he's a decent fit in Cohen's scheme just because of what he can be as a as a blocker and how Cohen uses his ex-receivers, especially when they're bigger guys. But his injury was a nasty one, and it remains to be seen how much work he'll even be able to get in this offseason.
Yeah, and he's got a massive dead cap number for anyone thinking they're going to move on from Gabe Davis. It doesn't look like it'd be this year because they take on like $13.5 more million against the cap by moving on from Gabe Davis. You're better off having him in that circumstance. What about Evan Ingram? Currently slated to count about $19.5 million against the cap. You could save about $6 million by moving on from him, but then you've got to, whether it's Brenton Strange ready for a larger receiving role, you've got to do something to replace him. So where are you at on Ingram?
So with Ingram, it makes, you obviously benefit less financially if you move on from him. I'm just wondering how big of a role a move tight end has in Liam Cohen's scheme. I think he could do a lot with Evan Ingram because, he's very creative in terms of formations and motions and stuff like that. I think Cohen could absolutely get a lot out of him as a receiving threat, but it also seems like Cohen likes to be in 11 personnel a lot, probably prefers to have one tight end on the field. And just looking at his, history of the tight end position, it seems like maybe a more balanced guy makes sense. A guy who can play with his hand in the dirt, be in line, contribute as a blocker, and be a big factor in the passing game. I'm not sure Brenton Strange is that guy either because Brenton Strange, who I think is, a tenacious, terrific blocker, and I think Cohen is going to have a lot of fun moving him around the formation and doing different things with him in terms of the running game. I'm not sure, even with the flashes he showed last year, if you want to lean on him as one of your top 4 or 5 pass catching options. I think he's still kind of an auxiliary option as a pass catcher. So it's a tough one because I think Cohen could get a lot out of Ingram. It's just I'm not sure how much he places emphasis on that role. But it could also be he didn't have a guy like that in Tampa Bay.
Cade Otton's not that type of tight end. He's a good receiver, but he's not that super fluid mover. He's the big, more inline guy. And I just wonder, when you talk about passing game weapons right now, you got Brian Thomas, right? Let's say Kirk is your slot guy. And why, you call him a tight end, but why can't Evan Ingram be on the field in a 2 tight end formation where he's just split out like a wide receiver?
No, he absolutely can be. And that's why I think if he is still on the roster, I think Cohen would get a lot of production out of him. I think in a lot of ways, it doesn't make as much sense for the Jaguars to actively get worse at pass catcher if the entire reason you hired Cohen was to help Trevor Lawrence improve.
So what do you think is the most likely outcome with those guys? Do you think both are back on the roster in 2025 when we start the season? You think both are gone or one is back, and which one do you think is more likely in that scenario?
I think both are back, but I think if they only pick one, I think it's Kirk.
I see a poll question for tomorrow taking shape right now. Both back, one back, both gone, whatever the case. We've got John Shipley in studio here with us. So we got Spence up in Georgia on the Garber Automall phone line. Spence, you're on Jaguars Today. Go ahead.
Hey, guys, I appreciate this. Last year, what I was most impressed with Liam, the reason he was kind of my pick all along was what he did when he lost Godwin and Evans. He adjusted his scheme. And that was one thing to pay attention to. But also, he is literally on the record talking about it's players, not plays. So I think the discussion about Evan might not fit his scheme or whatever, that's literally not what he does. He's going to take the tools, and if it's a cap hit that maybe a GM or the ownership wants to change, that's fine. But his whole greatness or potential to be great is that he doesn't try to mold players into his scheme. He's going to take the tools he has and use them. So, to me, I kind of disagree with the premise of the conversation a little bit because his record is, I lost Evans and Godwin, I'm changing everything. I lost Otton for a few weeks, I'm changing everything. And he did. That's literally his resume. So that's my only thought.
I appreciate it, Spence. Any comment on that?
I think the one thing I'd say is he had to adjust. It was in season. Now, he has a choice.
Right.
Now he can.
How do you want to set it up ideally for yourself?
But I do agree that's the big selling point on Cohen. When he spoke after his press conference to a couple of writers on Monday, he was talking about his running scheme. And he said that he went into the offseason wanting to implement a zone-based running scheme. He said it's easy to teach in the offseason. You can do it without any pads on, etc. But once they figured out that their running backs were hitting the hole faster and were better suited for a gap scheme. Once they figured out that their offensive line was better with a gap scheme, he changed it completely. So I think he's very flexible, and I think, he can make it work. However, it has to work, no matter what the personnel he has. It's just the only thing is now he has a say in what that personnel kind of looks like. Whereas before, he's in the middle of the season. He has to make it work.
Sure. All right, let's go back to the lines. Appreciate the call, Spence. Javal in Orlando, if I've got your name right. Javal, you're on Jaguars Today. Go ahead, please.
Hey, fellas, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, well, first of all, huge fans, and shout out Shep, fellow UCF Knight. So really just wanted to call and just to talk about, obviously with Cohen, a lot of emphasis was placed on the offensive line, how he wanted to hire the O-line coach from Tampa, and obviously they blocked the interview. So I'm just wondering, is there any maybe potential offensive line hires that we would know about? And more so, obviously, with the scheme last year, John was talking about how he just shifted the scheme to more of a gap running scheme. So do you think, based on the current fit, that they'd be more inclined to do more zone or more power? Just kind of your overall thoughts on who the O-line coach could be and what the running scheme can look like.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously Carberry seems like he was his number one target. Beyond that, I don't have a list of potential names. Or
you
even
don't carry a list of potential up-and-coming offensive line coaches?
I do. I left it, but
dang you, Ship.
I still think Carberry is, like I said, I think there's a very strong possibility he's offensive coordinator, and obviously if he is, he's going to have a strong hand in the offensive line room.
You think we'd hear that, though, in the next day or so, right? Like if they're going to interview him and go that route and say, okay.
Because you have to complete, an official interview, abide by the NFL rules. I think so. And so I'm not sure on potentially other options. I'd say look at the Los Angeles Rams coaching roster for the last 2 years. Maybe you can find an assistant offensive line coach there because, like I said, I think it's very clear that they're going to place a big emphasis on history with the Rams and with McVay with these hires.
It feels like when they constructed this offensive line, to the other part of Javal's question, is that they wanted athletic guys who could move, right? Which usually lends towards a zone scheme. You get guys pulling, you create the cutback lanes and all that stuff. And they don't have really too many bulldozers up there, right? So, I mean, does that...
Hard to overhaul that in a season.
Right. Yeah. You can bring in, and, in our mock drafts, we've been drafting multiple offensive linemen thinking one's going to start, and some of these guys are really versatile coming out in this year's draft that, like Gray Zabel's a guy that everyone's, catching on to at the Senior Bowl.
Up boards.
Right. Like you may have to spend your second-round pick on him at this point, but he played tackle. Some think he's going to be a 10-year starter at center. Others think he'll be a guard, so there's a lot of versatility out there. But with what they have right now, what is the scheme you anticipate them running?
I'd say, honestly, probably closer to zone because I think Mitch Morse is a zone, wide zone center. I think Ezra Cleveland is a zone kind of guard. They didn't run much wide outside zone last year. They were probably one of the lowest ranked teams in terms of how much they ran it, which didn't make sense with the personnel that they had. A lot of thoughts, at least from inside the building, are that coaching and scheme were a big reason why the offensive line has looked the way it's looked the last couple of years, especially in terms of the running game. That they didn't know what their identity was, or they went against the strengths of what they had. I'd imagine more of a zone-based scheme just with some of the guys they have, but I think Anton Harrison can do either or. I think Walker Little is a better run blocker than he gets credit for. But obviously, you have Ezra Cleveland locked in. You have Mitch Morse locked in. You have to play to their strengths too. I think you'll see a big uptick in zone, and not surprised to see a UCF alum bring in a great question. I'll say that.
Here we go. Love best.
John, baby.
Thank you, buddy. We appreciate the call. 641-1010 if you want to get in. And we'll turn it to the defensive side, personnel-wise, here in a second. But one more question here. All right, let's say Kirk is back. He's not going to be back for the next 5 years, it does look like, right? Ingram back. Maybe he's going to play out the last year of his deal, right? So in terms of we get it. You want to build the lines of scrimmage here. Oh, you got to have the lines of scrimmage. Okay, but we also talked with Matt Miller of ESPN yesterday. Said if you don't get a wide receiver in the first round, good luck, right? This is not,
it's not
a good wide receiver draft. So where does that factor in? Like, how much does this team need to add another playmaking pass catcher, not only for 2025, but looking down the road at least a year?
I think looking down the road a year, I think it's a consideration. I'm not sure. Like, if you bring Kirk and Ingram both back, I think it's probably something that you can kind of not necessarily punt, but you can kind of put it on the back burner maybe for another season, because at least it seems like, with the way Cohen runs his offense and the way he's able to get production out of receivers, that he can bring in somebody and have some success with them early on. I mean, Jalen McMillan had a great, rookie season for them last year. He got some production out of Sterling Shepard, obviously, when injuries happen. So I think if you bring both guys back, Gabe Davis pretty much has to be back, based on his contract. That's probably a little too crowded to maybe, want to put a big investment in somebody. But if one of those guys doesn't return, then, like if Ingram doesn't return, maybe you look at Tyler Warren in the first round, in a trade down. Number 5 would be fairly rich, but maybe you think about it in a trade down. Maybe if Kirk doesn't come back, well,
what if Travis Hunter's sitting there at 5?
If Travis Hunter's sitting there at 5, you got to take him.
Okay.
You got to take it. But I also think Travis
Hunter.
Hunter,
him as what?
I think he's a cornerback who can play receiver in a couple packages a game.
It's interesting the way Matt Miller put it yesterday. What does he want to play in the NFL? What is he going to tell teams to draft me as? You tell me 3 years down the road when he's looking for that second contract, who gets paid more?
Wide receiver.
Way more.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay. And you won the Biletnikoff Award. It's not like you're going to go, I'm not sure I can play that at the next level, right? So I wonder if we're looking at this, because we're starting to hear more pundits suggest that he will be a wide receiver who maybe dabbles with a few snaps on defense instead of the other way around. We'll see how it all plays out. But, all right, let's come back. We'll get some more calls in. We'll also talk about the defensive personnel and, again, what they might do with that 5th pick in terms of adding somebody on that side of the ball. John Shipley's here with us. So if you want to get on board, you know the ways to do it. The easiest one is 641-1010 on the Garber Auto Mall phone lines. It's Jaguars Today on 1010XL at 92.5 FM. Hey, folks, Mike Dempsey here for Lickety Split. Warming up a little bit this week. Before you know it, we'll be sweating every single day. And in North Florida, when the temperatures go up and your AC goes out, you need help now, like right now, like Lickety Split. Why wouldn't you call Lickety Split? Get same-day emergency service for your AC. I bet you're seeing their trucks all over town, because I'm telling you, I can't drive in to work or home from work practically every single day without seeing Lickety Split all over the highway, going out to help people not only with their AC, but their plumbing and electrical too. When you want it done right and you need it done right now, call Lickety Split.
Jaguars Today. From the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios of 1010XL. Taking the middle of your day to a whole new level.
Look, you guys, they're just all really cool kids. And if they were mine, I would be so proud.
XL Prime Time.
And I am proud just to even know them.
2 to 4 weekdays on 1010XL.
Interested in a unique date night? Gibby here. I took my wife Nikki to Wick a Candle Bar. She made her own custom candle right there in the store. Shop local at Wick a Candle Bar. Locations in San Marco and Jacks Beach.
This is the Mangler. Years of playing football coupled with lifestyle left my feet mangled with neuropathy. I was experiencing burning, tingling, and numbness. I spoke with 2 foot specialists and they told me there was no cure. They were wrong. I found Dr. Nate Riddle in Ponte Vedra. After utilizing his neuropathy treatment for only 2 weeks, I noticed a difference in my feet. I was regaining my feeling and balance. If you want relief from nerve pain, call Dr. Nate for a free consultation at Riddle Wellness, 904-395-5598.
Hey, John, looking for the perfect family ride?
How about taking your family on a luxury ride with the all-new 2024 Cadillac Escalade?
That sounds amazing. If you're a loyal customer, you get $4,000 off. Or if you're new to Randy Marion, you can get a $3,000 Conquest discount.
And don't forget the 5% savings on retired courtesy transportation vehicles.
You can save over $10,000 on select 2024 Escalade.
Experience the luxury and comfort at Randy Marion Cadillac.
Randy Marion Cadillac, Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville.
Plus tax tag title $899M and fee and resist all on approved credit.
Jaguars Today, Thursday.
Brought to you by Cannons of Jacksonville.
The Electric Light Orchestra Experience featuring Evil Woman, the American ELO. A concert celebration featuring the music of Electric Light Orchestra. It's February 5th at Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org. A
Attention men and women. If you would like to get your hair back, then you need to listen to some of our clients. John in Orange Park.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Call IHRS now at 904-777-IHRS. Find out how to grow your hair back with a free hair and scalp examination. Mike from Bay Meadows.
I finally found the most experienced company who could restore my hair. Now I have hair where I had none before.
Results guaranteed. Diane from Ponte Vedra.
Now I have what lotions couldn't give me. Thick, beautiful hair.
Find out why you're losing your hair and how to grow your hair back. Call 904-777-IHRS for a limited time free hair and scalp examination.
Now my hair will grow for the rest of my life. Thanks, IHRS.
Thank you, IHRS.
Thanks, IHRS, for giving me my hair back.
Hurry and receive a free hair and scalp examination and get 2 weeks of laser treatments for free. Call IHRS at 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Hairforme.com.
I'm Max Fink. Join me for the Gator Report on 1010XL as I break down the latest storylines in Gator Nation.
Put together by San Jose Collision on the home of the Florida Gators. 1010XL.
Go, Gators! For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Ammon, you're always talking about how clean air is healthy air. I've had this cold for weeks. Can cleaning my air ducts actually help?
Well, Dad, I'm not a doctor, and let's be honest, you probably caught that cold from one of your grandkids. But I can tell you this, the cleaner your air, the better you'll feel.
Makes sense, but what do air ducts have to do with it?
Your ducts are like the lungs of your home. If they're full of dust, allergens, and who knows what else, all that junk gets blown into the air you breathe, especially now that the heat's running. And the EPA says improving indoor air quality can reduce health risk.
So you're telling me my vents are working harder than my immune system?
Exactly. That's why Zero Res is here. We're NADCA certified, and our truck mount system is the most powerful in the industry. Right now, we're even offering $100 off your total for January.
All right, sign me up. If it makes me feel better and keeps your mom off my back, I'm all in.
Good call, Dad.
Zero Res.
Spelled border backwards.
It's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
What's happening, folks? E.T. here, and get out of the house and crush those New Year's resolutions on the beautiful trails of Clay County. With perfect weather, now's the time to explore Jennings State Forest, Mike Rose Gold Head State Park, and Belmore State Forest. And after your hike, refuel at one of Clay's local favorites, like Dalton's Sports Grill or the Corner Pocket. Clay is my home, so I can promise you my people will take care of you. Trust me, just visit exploreclay.com and share those adventures at #ExploreClay.
Got a cracked windshield? Not only is it dangerous, but did you know it's also illegal? Call Baker Glass. Mack and his crew use the best auto glass in the market, and they accept most insurance. Plus, all new windshields come with a full warranty. From cars to trucks to RVs, you can count on Baker Glass to be fast and friendly. Just check out their Google reviews. Come see us at the shop on Casta Avenue, or we can come to you at your home or business.
I'm back with Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
When you need a mechanic you can trust, call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, more Jaguars today on 1010XL.
I guess shout out to your pops for listening. We appreciate Ship Senior out there in the listening audience.
Yes,
very much appreciate it. Shout out to Mike over at Westminster Woods, where my father-in-law and mother-in-law live, he just started talking sports with my father-in-law. And of course, my father-in-law can't miss an opportunity to say, oh, you know where my son-in-law is? And he's like, oh, gosh. So anyway, Mike, hello. Thank you for listening as well. And to the rest of you out there, we got John Shipley of SI in studio here with us. Want to get to the defensive side, but also want to prioritize some of these phone calls. So let's give them the opportunity to ask you some direct questions here. John, let's go with Justin in Oakleaf. Next up here on Jaguars Today. Justin, good morning.
Good morning, John. Good morning, guys. How are y'all? Appreciate what y'all are doing. Hey, real quick, in regards to the wide receiver position, I know it's somewhat of a need what are your thoughts about, one, moving ETN to wide receiver, and also, since we have BTJ, who I believe is Randy Moss 2.0, we also have Evan Ingram, who does his, hands-eye contact drills and all that stuff, how he, got better hands. I would look at drafting somebody like that guy from Georgia that has the drops or whatever, because I believe you can teach anybody any skill and they can become adept at it. Thank you, guys. I'll take your comments off the air.
All right. Focus on the ETN aspect of that. If you
First UCF and now an Oak Leaf caller.
Well,
man. all my stops.
All your bases are being covered.
No, I think so. With ETN, he really, I think the worst thing Urban Meyer ever did to ETN was call him a slash player or whatever, because I think that created such a misconception for him as a player. I know he had that one great play against the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023 where he caught the long ball for a touchdown, but he's good as a receiver in terms of he can catch a check down and get 10, 15 yards after the catch. He has never, even back to his Clemson days, most of his production as a receiver, it was almost purely on screens. It wasn't like he was being split out very often or that he was routing guys.
He's not Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, no. So I think, he has the physical traits to be like an effective pass catcher. It's just, I think he's a different weapon out of the backfield than a guy who could potentially, go out. I'm not sure how many running backs are, going to be able to do that. But I think a guy like, say, Bijan Robinson, I think he splits out right wide now and then. He's able to do something. I think there's just different kinds of receivers, and that ETN just isn't that kind of receiving back.
And in terms of teaching guys how to catch, right? I think some guys, yes, they can improve, right? People can improve. Evan Ingram had a lot of drops early in his career, and there's an example, right? But Troy Williamson, Tony, he was drafted in the top 10 because he was a phenomenal athlete, could run past everybody, never was a consistent receiver his whole career. Look at Quentin Johnston. Yep. Even though he had a much better second year, it showed up late in the season for the Chargers. And in the postseason, he is one of these guys in a big moment, a ball's going to go clanking off his hands. So I'm not I want my receivers a little bit more well-formed if I'm going to spend any kind of significant draft capital.
Look, Evan Ingram had some problems with that early in his career, and he's made it a point to that can't be a problem anymore.
Do you guys remember in his first training camp how, the drops that he was having those first couple weeks of practices and just how bonkers Giants fans would go on social media?
They were right, because that's what they predicted, because that was – and look, it was an issue at times with the Giants. But as we've seen with Evan Ingram, he's the first guy on the field every day, right?
He knows he has to work at it.
Day.
He works at it.
He works hard at it. He's done a great job. So I'm not saying you can't get better. Don't get me wrong 100%. There, but I'm not going to take the extreme positive case and extrapolate that to everybody, because I think there are more cases of guys that just have the athletic profile but don't have that great skill at the NFL high level that you need it to be.
Well, and it's something we talk about virtually every NFL offseason, especially with the way that they work now. They have to be self-motivated.
100%.
Right? Like, teams don't have the time on field with any of these guys. If Evan Ingram's going to get way better in that department, he has to figure out, I have to put in this extra 3 hours a day doing this kind of thing to get better at it. And you hope it rubs off on Strange, because he's working with them every day. He's like, he's 100%. Playing my position. I have to be better. He's that dedicated. I need to match his dedication. It can rub off on other guys on the roster, but it's because they're self-motivated to reach whatever level they think they can reach. Ingram was a first-round pick for a reason.
Yeah.
And he fell short in New York for other reasons. And now he's in Jacksonville saying, I can't let that get in the way anymore. I got to fix it. And he's found a way to fix that part of his game, and hopefully it pays big dividends, rubbing off on Brenton Strange and other guys on the roster that they see him working at it the way that he does.
Yeah, I think this was my 6th season covering the team. The two guys who I've seen work the hardest in terms of being on the field early and leaving it late, Evan Ingram and Josh Hines-Allen. Class of their own in that regard.
All right, let's move on here. Brian is in Daytona Beach, and he's next up on Jaguars Today. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, how y'all doing, fellas?
Very well. How are you, man?
All right, UCF and Cook me here. So as far as the last caller, man, a real mismatch. I would put Ingram outside because he can't play receiver, and put BTJ at the slot doing the play. That would be a real mismatch right there. But I have one comment. The first comment would be I believe that whole Chip Kelly thing is just smoke, man. Because honestly, why would Chip Kelly come here and be hired as a coordinator if he'll never call plays, given his his work history. He's been a coach, a head coach. He wouldn't come here just to hold a book and let Liam call the plays. That didn't make sense to me. So I don't really see that happening.
Okay.
But my question is it realistic to just say the interim guy is going to be the GM? How can we hire another GM who's not, we don't know if they're in the process of scouting. We don't know that. But it just seems like realistically the guy that's the interim right now is going to be the GM and we hire somebody next year. It just doesn't make sense for somebody to get hired next week, get the ball rolling when they should be at the senior, the whatever it is going on right now.
I got you. Let me just, before you give your response to that, John, I will say this. Like, Ian Cunningham is evaluating players.
Yeah.
Right? He's just not doing it for the Jags right now.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, as the guy who's been mentioned in the Bears front office as a candidate, and I guess he and Liam Cohen share an agent. And so I don't know that you're going to rely on scouting reports. There's still a lot of time. If you hire a GM by the end of next week or the week after that, I think there's over 2 months still before the NFL draft. It will be, you're already in the I don't think you're just going to pluck a guy out of left field. It's going to be a guy who's somewhat involved in this evaluation process somewhere already, I would think.
Yeah, and the Jaguars are still at the Senior Bowl. They're still evaluating. Their scouting department is there. That's why every time a new GM gets hired, you see scouts get let go after the draft.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, because they've been working on this draft class for 2 years now, sometimes longer in some cases. So, the Jaguars, regardless of when they hire a GM, they'll be, ready and prepared and have the information that they need to have. In terms of Ethan Wall, like I really like in all my interactions with him, I like Ethan. I respect him. You talk to people around the league and you get the same kind of messaging. He's a respected guy. He's somebody who people, thought in San Francisco eventually would start getting interviews kind of in the same line as Adam Peters. I'm not sure if the Jaguars are going to be open to wanting to just keep some of the old blood as
a branch off the Baalke tree.
Exactly. I think Ethan Wall will still be with the organization. And I think, honestly, probably his work after Trent got fired in the day or so leading to Liam coming has probably gone a little bit underappreciated. Like he was the point man of a lot of things. He definitely had an impact on the final stages of that search. On the other hand, though, I think they're going to go with an outside hire. I mean, Ethan was sitting in the same row as me for the Liam Cohen press conference.
You
not
told
sure.
us that before the show. I was like,
I'm not sure it's the best sign.
That might say a lot, right? Like usually if you've got the power structure, you got him up front on the dais, kind of situation. So I think Brian made a very good point because, Liam Cohen, it may have been a passing comment when he talked about, wow, it was eye-opening to see how effective Brian Thomas was out of the slot. You go back, and I know this is fantasy football is not real life, but as Jeff Prosser put it this morning, it is an indication of production. When Chris Godwin got hurt, at that point, he was within 1 point of Jamar Chase as being the most productive wide receiver in the National Football League, playing out of the slot for Liam Cohen. If you had let's say you had Tet McMillan here, I could see Brian Thomas getting a lot of slot snaps with this team. The thing is, right now, you've got Kirk and Parker Washington right now that are both much better suited to play out of the slot for them. That I don't know, if Kirk's back, if we're going to see as many of those opportunities for Brian Thomas as would, prove to be profitable.
Yeah, no, I think that Cohen will do a good job of moving Brian Thomas around. He even conceded. He said the last staff did a good job with that, did a good job of establishing that he could, play that position. It made me feel better about missing on BTJ because I think I was sitting in this chair like less than a year ago, and I was like, I don't know if I take him in the first round. So Liam Cohen missed too. So
you know what? You weren't the GM though.
No,
right? You're just giving your opinion. BTJ just feed my man needs 150 targets next year. That's my my baseline number in 17 games for him. All right, we'll take a final time out. Brian, thank you for the call and those that have come before. If you're on the line, stay there. Want to get to defense? Want to get to GM names? And we've only got a few minutes to do it, so let's try to take advantage of our opportunity with John Shipley when we return to close things out on Jaguars Today here on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
You're at the home of the Jaguars in the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Tired of a plain and boring backyard? Stonecore on Phillips Highway is your one-stop choice to beautify your home. With pavers, stonework, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces, pergolas, and driveways. Visit stonecore.co. We do outdoors better.
Jacksonville, get ready to spice up your night at One Night Taco Stand. Every Taco Tuesday, enjoy their mouth-watering tacos for just $2.99 and get your weekend started with 2-for-1 house margaritas. Find fresh Mexican street food, stiff drinks, and fun vibes at One Night Taco Stand with 3 Jacksonville locations in Mandarin, Orange Park, and Southside at Bay Meadows.
We're certainly facing interesting economic times. For me, it's comforting to know my money's in good hands with ITP Partners. Jacksonville guys taking care of my Jacksonville money. Experience? Yeah, that's Chris Bryan, Jeff Hartman, Reagan Wright, Dan Abel, Scott Regner, Janice Cobb, and Reed Wingate. They have the expertise and knowledge to take care of your money. For more info, go to itppartners.com. ITP Partners, they're my financial partners for life.
Non-compensated client testimonial may not be representative of all client experiences. No guarantee of future performance or success.
You're locked in to Jaguars Today, Thursday with
Cannons of Jacksonville.
Hey, are you ready to welcome our new head coach, Liam Cohen, to the bank? Join us this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Gallagher Club West and be among the first to hear directly from Coach Cohen. Enjoy a live panel with Coach Cohen, appearances from Jaguars legend Tony Baselli, The Roar, Jackson DeVille, and the D-Line. Tickets are free, but space is limited. Secure your tickets by going to jaguars.com/Coach Cohen today.
Hey gang, Prosser here, and if it's time for you to sell your home, there is nothing like a guarantee, is there? Well, with Chad and Sandy and chadandsandy.com, you know what the guarantee is? Your home sold guaranteed, or they'll buy it. How simple can it be? Whatever problems you think you have, didn't I just eliminate most of them? Perhaps you're worried about costly repairs. Need to sell your home, not with Chad and Sandy. Maybe you're worried you won't sell your home for the price you need. That's what the agreed upon price is all about. Chad and Sandy, check every box. Call them today. Chad and Sandy, the only local real estate experts I trust and recommend. Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold at an agreed upon price and deadline, or they will buy it. No required costly repairs. Pick your move date. No long-term contracts. Cancel at any time. Jonathan in Mount Pleasant. The only thing standing between me and my dream of traveling in my RV was the sale of my home. I heard Chad and Sandy on the radio and called. Crazy results in just 3 days. Got multiple offers for full asking price. You can too. Call 904-414-6200 or go to chadandsandy.com.
Start your Saturday with a whiff of the great outdoors.
Captain Kevin Favor here with Captain Kirk and Jeff Lagerman, and we bring you the fresh air of the great outdoors.
On the Nimnit Outdoors Show, presented by Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning on 1010XL.
Hey, this is Bert Cannon with the First Coast YMCA. Youth sports at the Y can help nurture your future athlete's potential and experience the joy of being a kid. At the Y, we're providing a safe, clean, and fun environment with basketball, soccer, volleyball, gymnastics, elite skills training, and more. Best of all, participation in Legacy Youth Sports League is free with your family membership. Visit fcymca.org to learn all about youth sports at the Y.
Tailgate special alert. 3 pounds of marinated chicken, 2 pounds of marinated steak tips, 2 pounds of fresh ground beef, and 2 pounds of homemade sausage for only $80 to feed your crew.
For tasty tips and juicy breasts, choose Southern Steer Butcher.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Anthony. When you've been charged with a crime, you don't have to face it alone. I'm here for you. Stay out of trouble, but if you don't, call me. 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW. In the 904.
With 50 years of fabrication expertise in towing products, the family at Cannons of Jacksonville can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
Start your new year off healthy and get screened at Ackerman Cancer Center with on-site imaging, including whole-body MRI, PET and CT scans, and mammography. Early detection is key. Visit AckermanCancerCenter.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down from the cool guys at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Fast, reliable, and honest service since 87.
I feel like we are the cool guys today, Tony, because we got ET in for the next couple of days, and we got Ship here with us. By the way, I feel like you and Demetrius Harvey are like two sides of the coin for me. Like, we love you in equal measure, right? And for folks going, where's Demetrius? Why hasn't he been on since the end of the season? It's scheduling, all right? Trust me, I've reached out to these guys, and this has been the first occasion where it worked out for John and us to all get together. Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times Union next Thursday in studio doing the same thing. I'm sure he's listening to get some tips on what to say.
People don't know that him and I actually bare-knuckle box to see who gets to come on
That's
first.
right. It was like, hey, you guys settle it and then call me and let me know, and we'll have you in. But that's a great visual. Ship, before Tony takes us around the league, give us some GM candidate names that you think will be on the radar for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I think Ray Farmer will be one that's in, potentially consideration. I know that would probably make a lot of Jags fans not thrilled. He didn't have a very good run as the Browns general manager a decade ago, but he's been with the Rams front office for a while. And Shad Khan interviewed him in 2021 when he was looking, for his quote-unquote full-time general manager.
Oh, how history could have changed right there.
Yeah. Wow. Ray Farmer and Urban Meyer, that would have been quite the pairing. I think another guy, Brandon Brown, the assistant general manager for New York Giants, he's a guy, he's been a finalist for several jobs before. He's held in really high regard, and he's probably one of the only people in the Giants organization who came off looking okay from that whole Saquon Barkley thing, because they got documented as him being like, oh, did we really?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I think another guy, John Eric Sullivan, son of former Jaguars wide receivers coach Jerry Sullivan. He's high up in the Green Bay Packers organization. He was a finalist for both the Jets and Titans general manager jobs. I think he'd make a lot of sense. And then also Champ Kelly, assistant general manager right now with the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a North Florida guy. It's, been talked about in league circles before that, he's somebody who he'd be interested in working for the Jaguars just because, it's, close to home, close to roots, et cetera, stuff like that. He, did a good job as interim general manager after they ended up moving on from Josh McDaniels and Ziegler. So those are some names that I think, make sense along with Ian Cunningham.
I was going to ask, because his name has come up, and we'll see. Are you worried? A previous caller mentioned, that, hey, the thought that we'd stick with just went out of my name. I wanted to say Ethan Wall, right? I wanted to say Heath Farwell, and glad I didn't. But anyway, because of the timing of the whole thing, are you concerned? Like Shad said, hey, we want it. This will be done by the end of February. Are you at all worried about? Let's say it is a month from now when they name the GM, that he'll be behind or whatever, or it's going to hamper the Jags some way this offseason?
I don't think so, because I think, one, like you said, a lot of these guys, they're not hiring somebody who's out of the league. They're not going to be hiring somebody who currently is not with the team. So all these guys are currently working on evaluations, on free agency, in the draft, etc. And also, it's very clear that Liam Cohen is going to have considerable say in terms of who they bring into the building in the draft free agency. So, yeah, while the general manager might be starting late, Liam Cohen is clearly, going to have his finger on the wheel, his hand on the wheel, and he's going to have a considerable amount of say. So, no, I don't think so. And I've had some people ask, well, is it really that appealing of a job if you're kind of, quasi answering to the head coach? And I still think, it's 1 to 32 general manager jobs. And the one thing they have going for them is, right now, nobody else is looking for a general manager. Right. Every other role is filled.
And you know what? If you are the GM, but you don't have final say on the roster, and somebody else wanted to interview you, I believe you can't even block that move, right? If the promotion comes with final say and you don't have that in your existing job, so it's not like their upward mobility would be capped if a more attractive situation came along for them personally.
100%
going forward. All right, let's let Tony Smith catch us up on what's going around the rest of the National Football League.
Now, gems around the NFL Brought to you by Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jax Beach.
Just a few quick things. The Las Vegas Raiders are bringing back Patrick Graham as their defensive coordinator. The New York Jets are hiring Steve Wilson as their new defensive coordinator. Steve Wilks, excuse me. Baltimore and assistant head coach and pass game coordinator Chris Hewitt have mutually agreed to part ways. He has been working in Baltimore since 2012, but not going to be working there in 2025.
All right, there you go. Just as we said, a quick look around the NFL because it keeps rolling for the other 31 teams. Ship, let's spend a few minutes at least on defense here.
Yeah.
All right. How do you look at the defensive tackle position? I'll just leave it an open-ended question for you.
Yeah, like they clearly need better production from the interior defensive line. I think it's been back-to-back years. They've been probably the worst pass rush team from the interior defensive tackle. Part of that, I think, last year was the fact that their best pass rushing defensive tackle was for some reason playing defensive end and clearly was not a fit for it. And their other probably best pass rushing option at defensive tackle was a rookie who it seemed like it took him some time to understand what it meant to be a pro. You know, that he didn't cut, like Mason Smith obviously had a great end to the season, but he clearly had to grow up and mature.
He said it himself.
Yeah, exactly. So probably that factors into a lot of their issues there last year. But I mean, just looking at it, I think you have Eric Armstead, who you need to play a 3 technique. Liam Cohen said on Monday after his press conference that he would be playing defensive tackle with the Jaguars now moving forward. I think a big reason for that, he even mentioned, is he saw him, mess up the Rams quite a bit in the NFC West as a defensive tackle. So I think you can at least have some assurance that he will be in his natural position. I think Devon Hamilton, Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson, I think it's at least a nucleus and a base to build upon. Can you get better? Yes. Would a guy like Mason Graham still be a possibility at number 5? I think so.
He's a 3 technique, though, isn't he? Right. And so you've got Eric Armstead. I feel like Mason Smith projects best long term as a 3 technique.
He does.
Right. So, I feel like I get it. Mason Graham, we weren't great at defensive tackle, but you had a rookie, as you said, that took most of the year, but he started to round into form. You got a high draft pick invested in him. You've got Armstead returning to his natural position. I don't feel like that's one of the biggest glaring needs for that. Now, a nose tackle is, I'm not saying you take one at 5, but I think, that Deion Walker out of Kentucky, for instance, like a massive 340-pound space eater.
That's a big man.
He is a big man. What about corner? Should Will Johnson be a high consideration with the 5th pick out of Michigan?
I think corner is a giant need. And I say that as someone I think Monteric Brown played admirably when he got thrust in as a starter. He's a really tough player, throws himself around in the running game, really high effort player, really respected within that locker room. But at the end of the day, does he necessarily have the speed and athleticism to, run with number 1, number 2 receivers each Sunday in and each Sunday out? I think he's probably better as your top backup option at outside cornerback. So I do think they have a need at corner. I think Will Johnson would make a lot of sense. He's going to draw a ton of Patrick Surtain comparisons, and I think it makes sense. Just the size that he has, the length, the speed. He's physical. He can play man. He can play zone. He can make an impact in the running game. I think, personally, if I was in the general manager chair, which I will never be in, I think, he's the guy I probably, would be circling his name. Like, is 5 a little rich for a corner? It is, but the Jaguars showed last year, how badly they need help in the secondary, and you're not taking a safety at 5.
Plenty of corners go in the top 10, though. I mean, they do.
Absolutely.
So 5, 9, 8.
Absolutely.
And different drafts are built differently.
Absolutely.
Like, it's typically, maybe it would be reaching a little bit, but not in this draft.
No, and this draft is an odd one, I'd say.
Yeah.
Safety, I think, is honestly the biggest glaring need on that side of the ball. I'm not saying take one with the 5th pick.
I agree.
But is there a safety right now that is under contract that you feel like you can count on to be a quality starter for this team?
I think Darnell Savage. I think the thing with Savage is I think he's better in the slot, but he does give you safety versatility. Jarian Jones was so impressive last year. I think you have to keep him in the slot. So I think Savage at one safety spot, and I think he can at least be a solid, option there. At the other one, I think Andrew Wingard is better as a number 3 safety, special teams guy. Andre Sisco, I don't expect him to be re-signed. He wouldn't have been re-signed under the last regime because they went into the year kind of we don't know if we really want to pay this guy. And he obviously had the year that he had. And Antonio Johnson, didn't his first year as a full-time starter. Obviously, a lot of peaks and valleys, but more valleys than peaks. I agree with you. I think safety, just in terms of where do they need the biggest talent influx, I think safety is right there. And I'd say maybe free agency is where you look for one.
I bet Cisco gets paid by somebody. They're going to roll the dice on his youth. He has had a decent amount of interceptions over the last few years. I think he's going to end up pricing himself out of Jacksonville's interest level, whatever that may be. Very good question just came in. See if we can answer it quickly. Do all the players get the playbook the first day the coach was hired or soon after, like digitally? Are they already? Is Trevor Lawrence already looking at a Liam Cohen playbook?
That's a good question. I wouldn't think it'd be this quickly. I think that, probably before they do workouts or anything like that. The only other coach I've ever heard say something like that is, what was it? Urban said that he was going to give Trevor a playbook right after he got drafted, and everybody was like, wait, the NFL says you can't do that. Yeah.
Let's hold off now.
Yeah.
Right, which is weird. Honestly, if anyone should get it, it's Trevor, because you know Trevor's your guy, right? Like, I might hold it back from Kirk right now. I don't need you knowing about all the plans we've got here, just in case, Christian. All right. Hold those thoughts there with John Shipley. Before we wrap up, let's welcome in Helmets and Heels.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. Find the coolest cats in town at coolcatsjacks.com.
All right. So, on Jeopardy, they do those categories where it's like the first word and the second word is the first word of the next thing, right? Yeah. Right? So I'm thinking something to do with Press Taylor Doll. Right? So, I'm not quite sure what
Lord help
yet,
me.
but Press Taylor Doll, it all comes together in the Windy City. How you feeling about that?
I'm not a fan of Press Taylor whatsoever. All I will say is that he's not calling plays, thank God, even though nobody would tell us who was calling plays in this city. Did get Ben Johnson, and then Ben Johnson was like, actually, I'm just going to keep Press as the offensive coordinator. Could you imagine?
I'm going to call plays, but Press is still my OC here.
People here would be like, are you kidding?
Right? They somehow Trent Baalke would have been blamed.
Yeah, they're like, dang Baalke.
And then Ben Johnson would have given him play calling duties.
Yeah.
Right, like 3 weeks into the season.
Actually, I just want to take a break.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, what are you going to do? You just hired me. I'm going to do what I like. All right, what's coming up today on the program?
Yeah, we're going to a lot more Jag stuff as much as we can. As I told you yesterday, Mike, we're kind of taking a look and getting to know Liam Cohen on all different levels. So we've talked to people from Kentucky. We've talked to people from the Bucs. Today, we are talking to John Alba, who covered him very closely and does know Liam Cohen very well from his time at Maine. So we're going to go back even farther in the time machine and get to know sorry, I almost said Press Taylor because now he's in my head. We are not getting to know Press Taylor. Liam Cohen back in his Maine days. So that'll be fun.
All right. Have a great show, Taylor. We'll be listening. There you go. Press Taylor Doll, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Ship, we appreciate you spending some time with us. What should we... Obviously, you're going to be reporting on all the staff hirings and all that with the Jags, but in particular, anything you're working on for SI?
Well, you'll see me tonight at Liam Cohen's 4th Duval. I'll be out there. If anybody wants to say hello, getting some video for SI. Now we're going to continue peeling back the layers on what Liam Cohen really brings. I'm currently working on a story I'm trying to get off the ground. Just like Taylor even just mentioned, talking to people from his past to see exactly what kind of coach, they're getting, especially from the quarterback and Trevor Lawrence lens. So just, keep with us. We're going to give you guys everything we got on the coaching, assistant coaching searches, general manager search, all that good stuff.
We know you do a great job, and that will continue. You can find John on social media at _John_Shipley. That'll do it for us today. Tom McManus in tomorrow, Tony. So Tommy Mack will have a lot to say after a week off. Last week, bad timing, Tom McManus, but glad to have him back in tomorrow. Demetrius Harvey, among others, next week. Thanks again to John Shipley from Sports Illustrated's coverage of your Jacksonville Jaguars, for Tony Smith, and for my man E.T. Yo! Sorry we didn't get to chat a whole lot today, E, but we'll make up for it tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
For sure. I'm Mike Dempsey. Thank you for listening to Jaguars Today. Back again tomorrow from 10 to noon on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Yo, Jacksonville, let's go.
Duval.
Jaguars Today.
From the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios of 1010XL.
Picture a man going on a journey beyond sight and sound.
Picture a journey with 1010XL.
Roll with Hard Rock Bet for Big Game 59 because we're rolling out over $5.9 million in bonus bets. The big game kicks off Sunday in New Orleans, but get your share of Big Easy bonus bets now so you can place more bets on us instead of using your own cash. It's the big game rollout. $5.9 million in promos only on Hard Rock Bet. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to wager. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Please call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
A lot of companies will tell you they're the best. At Custom Tree Surgeons, they show you every time. Custom Tree Surgeons has built an all-pro team. Every tree service professional has years of experience, continually trained and certified. They know what, when, and how to handle any job. It gets done efficiently and quickly by a team of experts. So for tree trimming, removal, stump grinding, and emergency services, forget any name other than Custom Tree Surgeons. There is no job they can't do better. Go to website CustomTreeSurgeons.com. That's CustomTreeSurgeons.com, and let them show you how the job is supposed to get done.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Johnson, founder of Hearts for Minds. Thanks to the players for helping us break the stigma of mental illness and connect people to life-changing resources in our community. It's 40 days until the Players' Championship.
It's New Year's resolution time, so why not skip the guilt and do something you'll actually stick to, like fixing that leaky faucet, unclogging